Last week, I put up a poll on my Patreon account asking you what sort of topics you'd like to see me cover for this week's video. The winner of the vote was an introduction to how I create filigree in my pieces. In today's video, we'll go over some of my favorite shapes and gauges of wire for creating filigree. We'll also go over some methods of construction, and then lastly, I'll show you how I tie it into a piece. Without question, my two favorite shapes for creating filigree in pieces are round and half round. They're both such versatile shapes for the wire. You can really create some cool, organic, growing shapes in your pieces. There are 3 gauges of half round I use in almost all of my pieces. 14 gauge half round, 16 gauge half round, and 18 gauge half round. Now the 14 and 16 I usually get in dead soft temper. On their own, they're rigid and sturdy enough to be able to hold shape within the piece. The 18 I usually get in half hard. It's just a little bit too thin, and I don't want it to bend out of place once it's set in a piece. For round, I usually only use 2 gauges. This is 20 gauge round and 24 gauge round. Occasionally I'll pick up 22 as well, but these are my usual go-tos. The 20 gauge generally I'll get in dead soft. The 24 I always get in half hard. Making sure your spirals are smooth and uniform can make the world of difference between your filigree looking messy and nice and crisp. To make the smallest spirals, you could either use round pliers, or I like to use my fingers, taking just as much as I need and pulling the wires apart from each other. Gives me that perfect little circle. From there, I can begin to build on this same form, tracing it with a half round or with more round. Let's go ahead and dive into a piece that I'm working on to show you what I mean. Here's one that I've been working on with this little heliodor crystal. I still got a little bit of work to do up in this top left section, both on the inside of my spiral and on the outside to cover my wire ends. When I'm working on a piece like this, I like to establish what I call the stream of the piece, using one continuous line of wire that traces through and creates a direction to the piece. If you think of filigree as a stream bed or a vine, it's going to continue to grow or pass in one direction. Streams don't cut back on themselves, or vines don't end up growing back down towards the ground. It's got one continuous direction of growth. Let's add some wires to this piece and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to add a piece of 16 gauge half round and a piece of 20 gauge round. I'm going to run my 16 gauge parallel to this line along the bail. I'm going to connect it in the same way that I connected that wire before it, giving it just a little bit of shape, passing through the bail, bending it around, back onto itself. To secure it to the piece, I'm going to pinch it around my 2 pieces of 14 gauge that created the bail. Perfect. My 20 gauge, I'm going to go ahead and connect just under these 2 pieces of 14 and 20. Wrapping it once around the frame of my piece, tucking it back in on itself. From here, I can just begin to build on the stream that I've already established with the piece, following parallel along the lines that I've already built using my other wires. This part involves a lot of experimentation. Sometimes I'll place a line, decide I don't like the direction that it's taking the piece, and I'll pull it back out and try again. For the round, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up and over the 20 gauge round and the 14 gauge half round that it was sitting just underneath, and trace that same line. I went ahead and finished running those 2 wires through the piece. I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight into how my process works. If you're interested in seeing a piece completed from start to finish, check out my Patreon. I uploaded a tutorial for this piece, start to finish, on my page there. The link is in the description below. As always, I'd love to have your input on this video. Leave me a comment below and let me know what you think. To see more of my work, check out my website or my Instagram page in the description of this video. I always really appreciate your feedback in the comment section of these videos. It always helps me to learn what I need to do to create the best videos possible. I also wanted to give a special thank you shout out to my new patrons, Janine, Dawn, and Cheyenne.